Hi, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to this mindful moment on Good Morning Sunshine. I'm the host, Brandon Lee, and today with us in studio is Michael Albee. Michael Albee is the author of a book called Karma. I can't wait to get into why you ended up calling a book called Karma, because clearly there's something there. But first off, we have a lot of friends in common in the world that you once lived in, and even a shared therapist. How unique is that? First off, tell me a little bit about you, because you were once a pretty hardcore divorce attorney and family attorney. What led you down that path?
Yeah, I had a daughter out of wedlock early on. I was about 22 years old and wanted to be able to help people out in a way that my attorney didn't help me out, which was giving empathy, compassion, some sort of advice that would step outside of the legal realm so that I could get on the other side of this really tragic experience with some pieces intact.
I tell people all the time, like, going through a divorce is an extremely traumatic life experience. Not only just going through a divorce, but also the children who are caught up in a divorce. What kind of trauma did you see while you were even helping your clients?
That was the part that I really tried to focus on, the children's best interest and keeping the trauma away from them as much as possible. If I had a client who wanted to complain about their partner, I tried to keep the focus on what we could do to keep the kids joyful and happy and everything else that was going to keep them outside of this huge divorce process.
You know, as a former journalist and news anchor, a lot of toward the end of my career, the stuff that we were reporting on was just was so dark and so heavy all the time. And while I wasn't in the story, I was still being impacted by the stories that I was telling. And I found like I was carrying a lot of that toxic energy home with me. And it was really starting to impact my mental health. It was really starting to weigh heavily on me. And I just wonder, as a now former divorce attorney and family law attorney, did you ever find yourself bringing home a lot of that toxic energy from a lot of your clients?
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't realize it until after I stepped away from law that how bogged down I was by the transference of trauma that I would hear every single day. And you can only hear so many times that X, Y, and Z are happening to people that you care about before you start to bring it home. And I've always been an optimistic person. I've always tried to see the glass half full. But when you are inundated with 40 people a day that are telling you about their deepest, darkest secrets, it's hard not to bring that home and have some sort of an effect on your children or your girlfriend or whoever it may be.
So you eventually spent about 10 years in family law and divorce, and then finally you broke. What was the one thing? What was that one moment where you finally said, I'm going to leave a career? I mean, obviously, you're no longer a practicing attorney.
Correct.
It takes a lot of work just to become an attorney, become a lawyer. You got to pass the bar. You got to go to law school. And you were in a career for 10 years, so something must have happened that triggered Michael to say, this is not the way I want the rest of my life to look.
Yeah, and it was really a great blend of opportunity meets 10 years of misery, we'll call it, where I had an opportunity to join in on a new tech company and then author my own book, which I was really excited about doing both. And even though it was kind of scary to jump out of that plane, I had a lot of faith that my wings would open up and I'd end up not falling, but landing really softly. And fortunately, with the help of friends and with the meditation practices that I have and the experiences that I've had, I was able to land pretty gracefully.
I feel like it's almost like an oxymoron. Like you're living two true lives. Here you were, a family law attorney and a divorce attorney. It's pretty ugly, bitter stuff. And then all of a sudden, mindfulness and yoga on the other side. Were you doing mindfulness and yoga while you were a practicing attorney, or did that come after?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was actually, I was about 2 years into my law practice. I was drinking every day. I was smoking every day. I was doing anything I could to numb myself.
Right.
And I realized after about 2 years that if I kept doing it, I was going to be in a lot of trouble in the next couple of years. I wasn't taking care of my family. I wasn't being present. All the stuff that I learned afterwards. So what I did is I enrolled in yoga teacher training and did my 200 hour. I absolutely loved it. And afterwards started teaching, and then I got my 300 hour. And while I did it in the same vein as family law, where I just wanted to ultimately give back, I gained so much out of it. I gained more insight than I ever would have through therapy or trips or experiences, just sitting in the classroom, being able to be present with myself, being uncomfortable in that moment when you're either gonna sink or swim, and ultimately in training, you learn that you're okay where you are.
Okay, so when I came out with my book, it was born out of trauma. right? My book was born out of trauma. And I had healed a lot, and I felt that I wanted to share some of that lived experience with other people who may be in a similar situation to where I had been. What was the one thing that caused you, Michael, to say, you know what, I need to write this book. I'm gonna title it Karma.
Yeah.
And what's the message you're trying to send?
The message was kind of eightfold, but I'll make it onefold. As far as my personal trauma, you know, I had a murdered father. I had a child at 22, so I had a lot of stuff that built up that manifested into depression and anger and different
Early childhood trauma.
early childhood trauma. So I had to work through all that. And then as I became an attorney, I thought that giving back was going to relieve all that stress and pressure and allow me to kind of be joyful. And what I found is, as you mentioned, it pulled me into that toxic environment. So instead of healing by giving back, I ultimately ended up pushing myself even deeper into the hole. So karma was an idea of hearing all this stuff that I really couldn't do anything about, because I can file pleadings, I can depose people, send out subpoenas. And at the end of the day, if someone's done something horrific, my line ends and I couldn't do anything. So karma was the idea of giving karma back to these people. All of these people that I'd seen as either clients or opposing parties that had just done truly awful stuff, they get stuff done to them in the book, and the book's kind of like a Dexter meets Deadpool, so there's a lot of fun stories, there's a lot of funny dark humor in it, and that's how the book kind of manifested.
Now, so it's fiction, but based on kind of real life stuff, kind of a blend of fiction, nonfiction?
Yeah, depending on who's asking, there's between like 10 to 30% truth in the book, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
I like that. What's the one thing, because I'm curious about this, what's the one thing that you would say, because that's obviously a lot of early childhood trauma. How old were you when your father was murdered?
So he was murdered about 4 months before I was actually born.
Still
and
traumatic.
Very traumatic. Single mom raised me, no brothers, no sisters, kind of in and out through school, got kicked out of my high school. You know, kind of the perfect storm of this guy should be a miserable divorce attorney. Yeah. So.
Well, I'm glad you're not miserable anymore.
Thank you.
That's
Appreciate
good.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely don't sense misery vibes coming this way.
A lot of joy.
What's one thing that you practice daily in order to heal yourself from all that trauma?
I have a daily meditation practice that is probably the core of my abundance and my joy, because I'm able to just plug out when all I want to do is plug in. My yoga practice, I go 6 days a week. I make sure to stretch, take time away from my phone. Those are the two big things. I'd say the third biggest thing is I just walk. I walk about 1 mile to 1.5 miles every day. I walk in the morning, I walk at night. Intentionally leave my phone at the house so I can't keep checking all my stuff, and it allows me to clear my head in a way that you know, a lot of this other kind of BS doesn't. So I found that for me, simple works best. If I'm sitting in my room, if I'm at a studio practicing yoga, or if I'm just walking around, it's really good for me to clear my head.
If you're watching right now, go ahead into the comment section. I just love hearing different ways that people find ways to find calmness, to find peace. Everybody goes through trauma.
Yeah.
I think they said like 85-90% of folks will experience some sort of trauma in their childhood. So you're obviously watching right now. Go ahead to the YouTube section and find those little comments below and tell us what you do on a daily basis to help you find that calm and that peace. Because if everybody does that, we kind of find new ways to bring that. Not everyone can sit there and do yoga.
Yeah.
Not everyone can sit there and be a good person who meditates, a meditator.
Yeah.
And so there's so many things that we can go out to find that calm and find that peace. What I will say is that it's so crucial for all of us to heal from that trauma, because trauma is generational, right? It gets passed down generation to generation. And so if you didn't take this opportunity on your journey, Michael, to heal from the trauma that had made you bleed, you would end up hurting your children.
That's right.
You would end up passing a lot of that trauma down to your child. What is your relationship? You have a daughter, right?
I have a daughter. I've raised her since she was about that big, and her mom lives in Montana. We have a great relationship. My daughter goes up and visits her over summers and breaks. And my daughter and I, we take trips together.
How old is she?
She's 15.
She's 15. When did
15.
you quit law?
I quit law about 2 years ago.
Oh,
a year
okay.
ago.
So she had a dad who was really in it.
She had a dad who was in it. And, but one of my goals, and this is why I started my own practice right away, is because my goal was to pick her up from school every day.
Yeah.
And I picked her up every day at 2 o'clock. And,
Wow.
And I've done that since she was 5 years old.
That's amazing.
And
I'll tell you why that's amazing, because that is so crucial. I didn't have parents who did that.
Yeah.
you know, and so that connection that you're making with her is incredible just by that act of showing up and picking her up every day from school at 2 p.m.
Even though she complains, she sees it, I think, yeah.
Oh, no,
No, she enjoys it.
Yeah, no, I get it.
She
But
enjoys
sometimes kids are like, oh, God, Dad,
Exactly.
seriously, can I do that stuff? If she would know what the other side looked like with having no parents show up for her,
Yep.
that would be much more damaging.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Showing up and annoying them is not damaging.
That's good to know. That's good.
Michael Albee, he's the author of the book Karma. Quite a story you have. Also, I really love your story, and I just relate to it, is that you can do a career change, you can do a life change. Just because you've gone to school and you've studied and you got your law degree does not mean you have to be married to something that is making you miserable.
Yeah.
And I think that's the takeaway from this story and just meeting you, is like understanding, yeah, I may have spent a lot of money and I went to school and I was so dedicated and this is what I was gonna do. But 10 years in, you're like, and that's young, 10 years in, it took me 22 years to leave news. 10 years in, you're like, it's not worth it. Like we get one shot at this thing called life. You know, and so I think that could be hugely inspiring, because there's a lot of people out there showing up for work every single day and they are miserable at what they do. And hopefully they find some inspiration. They're like, hey, this guy Michael, like he was a family law attorney, he did all that, and he said, F this, like this is too toxic.
Well, and that's one of my mantras. Like you said, we only have one chance at this beautiful life.
Right.
And you know, you're an artist.
Right.
If you've painted on a portrait and you've messed something up and you keep trying to fix it and fix it and fix it, eventually the whole thing just looks like crap.
Right.
Sometimes it's better to just take a new, fresh canvas and open up your heart.
That's a beautiful, beautiful way to look at it. Michael, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching this segment, Mindful Moment, right here on Good Morning Sunshine.